Welcome. Tonight's guest is incredibly special. I remember hosting Ginny last year, and my only regret was not having it videoed and not inviting every single one of my friends. Ginny has been, she has been many, many different things. She has a PhD in biophysics. She also holds degrees in physics and philosophy, has been doing and teaching Aikido for decades, and has worked at NASA for 10 years in upper management and leadership, and has been coaching a lot of leaders. And last year when she came, she got me to remember everything that we did to this day, to the movement, and hopefully, you didn't even remember that I remembered. And hopefully you'll get to experience this as well in your body as well as in your minds. And so this is one of my favorite experiences of consciousness hacking, so it's so special that we get to share this together. And so without further ado, I would love for you to give a round of applause for Ginny Whitelaw.
Wow, what an honor to be with you. My goodness. Talking with a few of you as we were getting started, wondering how these topics go together. Embodying, consciousness, leadership, how does that all fit together? And I hope that you have an experience of it over the next hour, hour and a half, of what it means to put mind, body as one. As Josh was saying, sometimes, in consciousness hacking, we're putting together, or in your conference, you're putting together things that we ordinarily don't think of as going together. And yet, what a richness can come out of that. So, let's get into it. This is a wild world you've chosen to live in, to lead in, to grow up in, to grow old in, to make a difference in, to express your purpose in. It's a wild time. As Barry and I were talking before it started, one of the urgencies that I feel in this time is I feel we have maybe two generations. Two generations where the decisions we make will make and remake life on this planet. How we use technology, certainly one of them. What we do with environment at a cataclysmic point of change, certainly another one. How are we leaning into this, and what kind of wisdom infuses our decisions? I think that question really burned at me when I was working at NASA, and I could see day by day how the condition of the human being coming to work had everything to do with the quality of their decisions, the way they worked with other people, whether we were going to build a space station or not. I was at a point I was in charge of integrating the space station among 4 space agencies, 4 NASA centers, and 42 contractor teams strategically stretched over 42 congressional districts. Talk about a complex arrangement of people. And people didn't get along. They didn't want to listen to each other. They wanted theirs. Right? And then by night I was teaching Aikido and Zen at a dojo. And I could see people getting more resilient, more able to roll with the punches, more able to be in themselves in a whole way. And I had to put these worlds together. I had to put them together. So that was what launched me into Zen leadership and in how to bring the deep training of the dojo into the service of people who are going to shape our life. So we face into this kind of stuff, and whether you're a doctor and you see what's going on with gene editing, or you're a climatologist and you see what's going on with the ice caps, or whether you're in technology and you see what's going on with the huge amount of job displacement, where technology is taking us in terms of who it serves and how quickly it turns the crank that can polarize those who have and those who have not. This kind of world, fast-moving, changing, it calls for the best within us. Being able to bring it every day. And yet, what does it often trigger? We were talking about fear. Fear. Tension. Anxiety. I'm teaching for a couple of weeks at the invitation of the University of San Francisco, and we were talking yesterday at lunch with one of the deans there, who said the incident of student anxiety is up like 5-fold in the last few years of people being anxious and stressed out. What do we do with that? Is that in the zeitgeist? How can we center ourselves in this? We can, you can. And when you do, you become contagious in how that triggers other people. So how can we release or be beyond fear? That was one of the questions that really struck me in my own Zen training, because we say the highest form of an art, the highest form of leadership is when you can take away fear. But what has to happen for you to take away fear? What has to happen in you to be truly fearless? What do you think?
Trust.
Trust. Trust in what?
Your surroundings, the people that are with you.
Trust in something bigger than your ego. Trust in something that's going to transcend this individual self. Now, how do we get there? How do we get there? So there's different routes, different ways, but let's just say it's easy to get stuck in a kind of tension. So for example, let me just have you right now, where you're sitting right there, if you were going to, let's say you were playing a character in a play. You suddenly were cast in a certain role in a play, and your character is supposed to be very anxious. How would you physically model that right now? And I just saw all your shoulders go up. Tension. We physically hold tension. Okay, how about, all right, let's change that. If you were asked now to model, let's say, a very arrogant character. Arrogance. Let's see arrogance. Did you notice how you raised the energy? You got puffed up. Energy came up. Did you feel that? Right. All right. No accident there. We're going to play around with how you can center energy down in gravity and be able to be more stable and grounded. So let's say now you've got to portray somebody who is centered and relaxed. How do you model that? What had to happen in your body?
Deep breath.
Deep breath. Deep breath. So breath, very interesting emissary in being able to work between the conscious and unconscious mind. And we work with breath in a great deal in every form of meditation, but also in how we embody conscious leadership. So it's easy to get stuck in this tension or resistance, and yet what we want to be able to do is be a cause, not a victim. We want to be able to co-create with what's going on. Express your purpose, express what you're here to do. Not be reacting outside in. So let's just level set a little bit about what we mean by leadership, and then what we mean when we put something like Zen or consciousness into that. And then we check in with you on something, and we will dive in fully. First, what is leadership? What is leadership? We have different images here. Does it mean you have to be famous or in front of a room or at the top of a company? Or does it mean it could be happening at any level in an organization? What is leadership? And a definition I would offer you for our purposes tonight is that it doesn't have to do with a certain position so much as with that ability to give value, from your value, your expression. Authentic to you, your purpose. So this definition from Cashman, authentic self-expression that creates value. And then you say, which self is being expressed? That's where the Zen comes in. Which self is being expressed? Is it my ego? Or is it something bigger? Which self? Whole self? True self? Neurotic ego self? So what do you know about Zen? What's Zen? Is it a spa treatment? Rock garden? Some rocks stacked on each other? What do we know about Zen? Balance. So there's something balanced, clean, clear, peaceful, calm, centered. Anything else?
Paradox.
Paradox, yeah. You know, we often hear these koans, these nonsensical riddles, and these things that make no sense. They're trying to blast through our normal sense-making mind. Zen's hard to nail down because it's more of a verb than a noun. An image sometimes used is a ball on fast-moving waters. So picture with me for just a moment a ball on fast-moving waters. What's it doing? What's the ball doing? Just show me with your hands. Just show me. Yeah. So it's going to rotate. It's going to move with the water, right? When the water goes faster, what's it going to do? It's going to go faster. And when it slows down, when it turns, the ball's just going to move, right? What happens if we throw you, human being, into fast-moving water? What do?
Drown.
Drown? Flail? Yikes! What's the difference? Now you might say, I'm a lot smarter than a ball. And you would be right. But where does the fear come from? Because we'd be flailing, we'd be fighting. What's going on there? Resistance. Resistance. And what are we resisting? We're feeling separate from the water and we're trying to control it. And that is the condition that so many people take to their everyday lives with. Feeling separate from what's going on and trying to control it. And it generates fear. Fear grows from a sense of separation. So, what is Zen? It's to unwind the sense of separation. So we say it's first physical training, because that's my experience. That's what I have to speak out of is my own experience. I'm not going to try to sell you on any belief. We're going into the body. This is physical training. What is it physical training for? To build this calm-centered awareness that you can read about in thousands of research papers and some of the psychological benefits of meditation, which are at this point well documented. Yes, reduces stress, builds concentration, improves emotion, builds the immune system, all those things. And to me, that's still the beginning. That's the beginning of what it offers. It's also going to set the mind free. You're using the physical scaffolding of the body to free the mind. What are you freeing it of? Self-limiting thought, ego-based neurotic behavior. So you can see through the false sense of separation so that you can embody universal energy, or ki, with hands and feet. You can actually physically tune your body as an antenna. I'm a physicist by training, so I think of this as resonance. And what we're doing when we train the physical body is we're changing how it vibrates, what it picks up, what it's sensitive to, what it can work with. And we're capable of action. When you put those things together, you can get an embodiment of an awareness that can help heal our divides, that can make wiser decisions about technology, that doesn't act out of fear, but acts for the whole picture. So, let me just pause for a moment here and bring this up. Do you have your cell phones with you? I mean, who lives without their cell phone now? Let me just ask you, from this little opening, if you wouldn't mind going to, you see that code, menti.com on your cell phone. Go to menti.com, and if you put in that code, 51859, you'll see this poll. And I would like you to just tell me in this poll, so I can kind of hear from all of you, if you could pick two things that you'd want out of embodied conscious leadership or Zen leadership, what would they be? If you could get two things out of that, I'd like you to cast your votes so I can kind of take the pulse and make sure I steer it in where your interest is greatest. So if you make your votes, you'll see there's a number of different things you can choose from. Pick the two that really speak to you the most. You there? And let's see where we are. Early lead goes to fully awakened. That's a good choice. That's a good choice. You kind of get a lot of the others if you choose the fully awakened one, right? Got your votes in? After this little exercise, I'll let you put your phones away so you won't be distracted by them anymore for the whole rest of it. But let's see how we're doing here. Yeah, it's interesting. You know, this is very interesting to me, how fear is coming up in a big way. You know, sometimes I'll say to people, if anything else in life satisfies, do that. But if nothing else satisfies, you better train in Zen. And the reason I say that is that in order to go after fear, you have to go after the ego. And there's not a lot of trainings that go after the ego that way. You know, there's a lot of meditations do, but you have to see through the ego. To be able to function fearlessly, you have to experience connections. There's no trick about it. You have to have that as your own genuine experience. It can't just be something somebody told you. I was doing an intro to Zen one time years ago, and a young guy, 20 years old, says to me, "Oh, I know all about Zen. That's that oneness thing. It's that oneness thing." Yeah, okay. And did it save you? Not until you experience it. Not until you experience it. Then you know. So, fear and also awakening. So this is a very mature audience here. This is a pretty seasoned audience. It's always good as a speaker at this point that there's not a lot of none of the above, you know? Like if all of you had voted for none of the above, we'd have a problem with my talk here. But I'm glad there's something here for each of you. So let's see how we can speak to the reduction of fear and how this kind of training leads to awakening. Great, thank you. So, I'm going to come down here for this one. You'll see there's these are little three bookmarks back here, that this question of what leads to awakening really burned in me as well. And when you start to experience this sense of connection and the possibilities that open up when you can live this way, you want naturally to share it with people, but I had no idea how to do that. So it's a question I meditated with for a number of years. And as I was sharing with one of you, it was from a meditation set one time, a very deep meditation, that it popped to clarity. 10 steps where each one sort of opens the door for the next one. Flips, I call them, because what became so clear to me is we get everything backwards. And when you look at it a different way, you start to experience a different kind of reality. We see things from the point of view of an individual skin sack self. We look out this way. So we think this is who we are. In reality, we are all one thing with differentiated aspects, interpenetrating without obstruction. This room is riveted with energy fields that we don't see or hear because we don't have senses that exactly pick them up, even though we can kind of register the vibe. But at the count of three, I want you to just say the letter or the sound ah. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Ah. It's so clear. Now, where did your ah start and his stop? And where was the boundary of your ah? And didn't it interfere with his ah over there? We hear it with sound, how every wave can interpenetrate to create something. But that's true of us all the time. And it's not just sound waves, it's waves at all kinds of frequencies. When our waves and our brains get in sync, our communication deepens. When our waves in the brain line up, we're a stronger signal. When this lines up with the heart, the electromagnetic field around your body, my body, gets 40 times stronger. These are things we're learning about the technology of the human being and how our energetic aspect is expressed. What that allows us to do is to work with it. And I love that we're looking at more ways of bringing technology into this. If there's ways that we can get smarter about training, we want to find them. In fact, it was meeting Mikey Siegel a couple years ago that led to even coming here to the consciousness hacking room. Because if there's smarter ways to do this, we want to find them. But I also want to take you into some traditional ways that are deep in the potential of the human being. And the first one is this, introduce you to hara. Hara is very central and core in the Japanese martial arts. It doesn't have a good translation, so we don't bother translating it. But hara is this area, this region in the lower abdomen. It is your energy center, an energy source for you. And it's core in how we can embody energy, because it is the center of movement. In fact, this center develops, guess when? When you learn to walk. About 18 months old, that's when this center is figuring out how to mature itself, or how to, not fully mature, but how to organize itself so that you can move in gravity. Such a simple thing. And what's so interesting is this center developed before you had an ego. A local part of us that could feel connected. Could that be handy? Very. So what I'd like you to do is, if you would please, stand up. Stand up. Let's feel this for a minute. And then get a little room around you so you can stretch out a little bit, you know, okay? Great, great. And I'm going to just take us through a simple breathing exercise that kind of centers it down low in the body. So first, just shrug your shoulders, let out a sigh of relief. Oh, sorry. Which way did it go? Down. I will point out that was the opposite direction to the way anxiety went. Okay, let's try it again. Oh, that's excellent. Now, relax behind your knees. Keep your knees soft. Why? Because it's going to allow your weight to come toward the big toe. And on your exhale, I invite you to just extend big toe into the earth. So breathing in through the nose, down slowly. You can use your hands almost like a piston, coming in, turn it over, down. Oh, that's good. Notice we're making the exhale longer than the inhale. Set means connect your big toe into the earth. Excellent. So, finding this hara center and being able to breathe deeply into it is the first practice I would like to offer you. And it's one free of charge. You can do it anytime. It settles anxiety. It settles fear. Why? It's intrinsically connected. It's also the center of our power. So whenever you're training in martial arts, you learn you don't want to punch from up here. You punch from boom, down here. And similarly, anytime in leadership, or if I'm speaking is a good example. If I'm speaking from up here and I'm talking from my throat, this gets really irritating really quickly, and you don't really want to follow this. Versus settling down into hara, it's a completely different resonance, a completely different signal. So, how can we engage this? How can we come home to this again and again? Deep hara breathing, these simple 3 breaths. And I'd like you to experience how it changes your resilience, your ability to handle pressure. I need a volunteer for this, so you know what happens when you're in the front row? Yeah. Oh, thank you, Hiroshi. All right. So here, I'm going to ask you to do this with a partner in just a moment. So I'd like you to just watch really carefully. So if I am kind of an upset, uptight, not in my hara state, something I can simulate by just that, bringing my shoulders up or imagining anxiety. And if Hiroshi takes 3 fingers and he pushes solid, steady increasing pressure, I'm a pushover. There's no resilience. Let's try it again. Oh, that's about it. Versus if I'm hara centered, so I've let my weight come down, centered low, and I'm just going to direct any pressure down to the earth as if it were like a rain gutter. taking water from a roof to the ground. So as he pushes, I'm just grounding it. And I can just feel a sense of using it. Now watch Hiroshi. So I have a bad day at work, Hiroshi. Yeah, there it is. That's about it. He's a strong guy, but instantly you can feel it. Now settle it down. Whatever pressure you feel, just send it to ground. Now you might think physical pressure is different than psychological, unless you've read the research. It all kind of shows up, same part of the brain. Enormous resilience when we center ourselves. In every moment of every day, you have that choice. So just take a partner for a moment and experience the tension and what that's like, steady increasing pressure, and then center yourself. And also centers of movement, spinal ganglia in this area, centers of movement, huge stuff going on in the gut. And the gut is sending 9 times as much communication to the brain as the other way around. It's the one part of the body that can say no to the head. You know, no. So what's kind of interesting is we think this is the one that's in charge. This one developed first. This developed first. This is the primordial. You know, this is like the fundamental gut level knowing kind of consciousness. That we can touch and train and become one with. We can reclaim. That's what a lot of our training does. So what these little thermometer ball people are showing is allowing this area to expand rather than sucking in the gut, which pulls energy up, right? But the opposite, letting it settle down. So this breathing into the belly. And we can add one more piece to this, which also allows for the bigness, the expansiveness. So to just get a feeling of dropping into Hatha, let me encourage you to stand up one more time. Stand up and let's try an isometric exercise, and then we'll do this breathing exercise. So first, isometric. I want you to just tense, over tense, and then release all at once. So we're going to let out a long exhale, and we're going to let all the air out and just tense the front of the body. I'm going to give you a countdown, get all that breath out, squeeze out the very last bit of it, the last bit. 3, 2, 1, release. And just invite everything to expand, especially from the base. Let it come to you. See how big this area can feel, as if it were a huge balloon. So what we're starting to do with breathing this low in the body is we're moving the lungs from underneath. The poor lungs can't move themselves. They need muscles to do the work. And the question is, which ones get the job? When the muscles deep in the lower body get the job, every breath becomes completely cleansing, completely relaxing, and slower. Because every breath is doing maximum efficiency. Versus, I was an asthmatic as a kid, so I know all about this. If you breathe high in the chest, you have to do it quite often, and it creates a very anxious feeling inside. So this deep, deep, slow breathing instantly changes our state. So what the other piece will add to it is the bigness. Holding this mic, I have to do this one-handed, but I encourage you to do it two-handed. So in the first one, we go up, down, center to feel the stability low. Second one, the arms drift up, and from up here, just connecting the big toes to the earth, and then out, and using 180-degree vision. So I see my hands looking neither left nor right, but only with peripheral view as they come back to center. Great. So let's do the first one. Establish the center. You can do this before an important meeting, an important conversation. Connect, big, expansive. Excellent. First one. Connect. Nice and slow. Exhale is the relaxing part of the breath cycle. So letting it Last one. Just check in with yourself on your own conditioning. Again, when we are operating out of a more stable, centered place, we can make more centered decisions, less fear-based, more connected, more intuitive. So, have a seat, and go. I'm going to talk a little more about energy, and this is a lifelong fascination of mine. I worked in a high-energy physics lab all through college, and it's interesting when you study high-energy physics because you're right at the cusp of where energy turns into matter. And you realize under certain energetic conditions, matter forms. So you can really see the flow between energy and matter. But what are we talking about here? Truly, if it's not solid, and it's not liquid, and it's not gas, and we're talking about it, it's a form of energy. So, pretty clear. So what is thought? Energy or matter? Energy. What is imagination? Vision. Executive presence. The vibe of a relationship. Team climate. Organization culture. You see, everything leadership is concerned with is a form of energy. And interestingly, I love Dan Siegel's definition of mind, because if I said to you, point to your mind, what would you do? Point to your mind? Well, a lot of you know, this is like a trick Zen question, and no one's going to go like this, right? But conventionally, we think of the mind as the brain, right? Mind is the brain. But Dan Siegel's definition of mind is an embodied relational process that directs the flow of energy. Wow. Embodied relational process. So again, verb, not a noun, that directs the flow of energy. So we're very interested in energy and in how it flows, how we can conduct it. We're going to play with it a couple different ways here, and truly even matter is energy. In a sense, condensed form. There are two directions in which you can use energy. This is Morihei Ueshiba, founder of Aikido. This is a little exercise he shows that I'll show you and encourage you to play with to get a feeling for these two energy directions. Because again, this is a decision we make, you and I, moment by moment, how we use our energy. Just as we're deciding how centered to be, is how we use our energy. Am I going to react to things that are out there, I like, I don't like? Or can I put myself in it and from inside out create value? Remember our definition of leadership. Authentic self-expression that creates value. Can I co-create with conditions? Or am I going to be perpetually reacting to them? That mode of coping is what leads to burnout, leads to exhaustion, depression. And so much of the anxiety and ills of our age is reacting to things out there that I do not like, that produce fear, that make me feel separate, that make me feel things are terrible. Versus when I can move into a point of acceptance and from inside out still lead toward my purpose, lead toward where I want to go or what I'm trying to create in the world, that authentic self-expression that adds your value, you're free. So how can we feel this? Because this is a feeling. This is not just a thought or some word on a PowerPoint slide. This is a physical experience. I need a volunteer. I'm not going to pick on Hiroshi. Come on up. Thank you. See, you volunteer early and then you're out. It's off the way. Thank you. And your name? Kat. Thank you so much, Kat. Okay. So, and this is actually a perfect volunteer because I'd like you to, when you do this, pick someone about your own size. About your own size. So what I'm going to do is Kat and I will face each other. I'm going to put the blade of my hand on her shoulder. And she's going to put both hands on my elbow. And she's going to apply on the elbow. Yep. So one over the other. So one hand over the other.
I'm still figuring out what's elbow.
So right here. And then, yeah, good. I'm out of hands. So you're going to put downward pressure, steadily increasing downward pressure to bend my arm. There you go. Do that one more time. There you go. So again, Ket is representing the outside world, in a world of pressure. And I have two ways to respond to it. The first way could be coping mode. It could be how much of this can I put up with? How much of this can I take? Fighting with, trying to control. So how would I physically model that? What would I do? What would I do? I'd get stiff. I'd get stiff and resistive. So I'm going to make a fist and get stiff and resistive. Let's see how this works. Oh, come on, Ket. All right. And even along the way, it wasn't much fun. So I'm going to shake that out, put it up there again. Let's do a safety check. So again, you can put one hand over the other. So perfect. And downward pressure. There you go, safety check. Now this time, I am not going to fight with it. This time, I am going to extend toward my purpose. I'm going to lead toward my vision. Or what we tell little kids is imagine there's a fire on that wall and your arm is the fire hose. So if you don't have a good sense of the flow of energy, you can use your imagination that way. But I'm just going to say, lead toward your purpose. Okay, go ahead. And she's going to steadily increasing pressure, and I'm just leading toward my purpose. And she notices there's something different. And
I am a little bit off balance.
oh, she's off balance. Actually, I could throw her at this point, but I'm not going to. So, but now you might think, well, Ginny can do it because she's been practicing. But watch Ket. Watch Ket. Okay, so for this, I'm going to put the mic down. Blade of hand. First, we'll do safety check. Second, we're going to do resistance. So she's going to make a fist. I'm not going to hurt her. I want her to feel a difference. So I want her to feel what this stuckness feels like. Do you feel that?
Yes.
Is it, what's that like?
It's like,
Ugh. It's like, ugh. Okay, you got that? All right, shake it out. Arm back out. Safety check. Please do this with your partner and work very intentionally together, very connected together. Now, Ket, I'd like you to lead toward your vision. So it's a line of energy. It's actually on the extensor side. Yeah, so extend your energy. So you don't want to lock here, just extend. Just get big toward your vision. Oh, that's nice. That's really, really, really nice. What's that like?
I'm looking behind you.
I'm
just long,
long view. I'm looking behind you, long view. Easier or harder?
easy.
Easy. So you might think like we arranged this. That's why I'd like you to have your own physical experience. Please find a partner about your size. First, safety check, steady increasing pressure. Throw out a few words that describe your experience of that state. What is it like?
Struggle.
Struggle?
Painful.
Painful, difficult. It's hard work. Alone. I'm stuck to a self having a problem.
Anger.
Anger, it can be frustrating. How much of this can I take? Coping mode always has a slightly negative emotional valence. Then you shake it out, you put it back up there, and now you're leading toward purpose. You're leading toward vision. What's the experience of that? Focus, strong, coherent, balance. It's supportive. Something's pulling us forward.
With more ease.
It's more ease, more effective, less effort. How can that be? But that's where we experience mind is directing the flow of energy. And so we align. Yeah.
We notice something that the person that is resisting almost supports you in going towards.
There you go. We notice that the resistance is almost supportive. Great insight that I'm using that energy to help me maintain my intention, that direction. So we flip it around. That's what I mean by saying you can get everything backwards. We think pressure out there is bad. Why not use it? Why not use it to be more clear about what matters and where we're going and how to land there, how to focus there. So this flip from reacting outside in to co-creating or transforming inside out. We say it's the first flip of leadership. This is where leadership starts. Why is it impossible to lead from coping mode? to lead as a victim. Why is that impossible? Just think about it for a moment. It's not going anywhere. There's no direction. It's just stuck. So there's no way to weight capture or direct people toward something where there's no movement. It's stuck. So this is a place where I think leadership really begins, where we can be centered, we enter into it, give it the best we got. And the cusp, the transition point between reacting and proacting, when you pass through neutral, is what? It's in balance. And that balance is a kind of acceptance. I use the word acceptance, and that's the way I've experienced it, but it's accepting, not I like or don't like, because who cares? Who cares if I like it? It's an is what it isn't. It is what it is. I'll work with this. It's here. I'll work with this. It's that kind of feeling. And then again, that's where deep, meditation can be so helpful, because it gives us the feeling of how to just accept what is, how to see it for what it is, not as something to fight with. So raise your hand if you do not have a writing implement or a piece of paper. Oh, a lot of you do not. Okay. Well, maybe we will skip this exercise then. Oh, your phones. I mean, how 20th century could I be? Well, writing implement, you have your phone, so okay, all right. So let's try this little exercise. All right, we're just gonna do this fairly briefly. First, on a piece of paper or a phone, or you can borrow paper from like the person next to you if you want to write it down. I'd like you to write down 6 things that give you energy, that are you at your best. 6 things you love to do. 6 things you love to do. There's something important about 6, so kind of keep going. Don't stop at the first 1 or 2. See if you can write 6 things you love to do. You have your list? Head nods? Oh, you're at 5. All right, keep going. If you have your list, just breathe with the sheer joy of those 6 things. Just let them settle in a little bit. All right. Next list, 6 things you want to create for your work, your community, your family, in the world, through art, through whatever your means are. 6 things that you would love to create, that would come through you. Through you. Start to feel into what are some of the things that unite these things. What are you noticing as you write these things? What keeps coming up? So I'd like you to distill it down to a purpose that's clear to you right now. A purpose that's clear to you right now. Something you feel deep intention about. This is part of what I'm about. May not be the purpose of my life, but it's a purpose that is very clear to me. Write it in a sentence. It's a purpose that calls me out. And just breathe into that purpose. Just let that fill your body. I mean, fill your body. How much that's true to you. And then, Daniel, maybe if you could help me for just a moment. I invite you to come back to a partner. And this time, just do it right. Don't even bother with doing it wrong. Just place your hand there and lean toward your purpose. So center and extend toward your purpose. Go ahead. So he's steadily increasing pressure, and I'm just extending to my purpose. I want you to notice how when mind aligns toward purpose, it gets even easier. Even easier. So Daniel, you do? Just lean toward your purpose. Okay, both arms. Both arms. Just expand into your purpose. Oh, that's wonderful. That bigness all the time. So take your partner, just do it right this time. Lean into your purpose. Leadership has a direction. Know what yours is. Know what it is you're trying to create. And then, and this is really important, can be very flexible about how we do that. And that's where I want to take us on a journey through the nervous system, just a little bit in play with 4 different ways to use it. Because energy in the human being orchestrates or is orchestrated in certain patterns that relate to patterns of personality. They relate to, well, let's see. They relate to, if you've ever taken a personality test, these are dominant factors of personality. But they also relate to modes of leadership, of getting things done, of manifesting our goals. Different ones of these patterns are incredibly valuable. They relate to, there's an instrument that I co-developed called the Phoebe that measures them, that connects mind, body, and these behaviors. And it's, in a sense, an aspect of you that I just want to reacquaint you with, because it's yours. It's like an inner team. An inner team that's very agile. So I said earlier, we were talking about energy versus matter, and I asked you what thought was. And you said it was energy, right? So if I ask you to grab a hold of the next thought you have, grab a hold of that thought and hang on to it. Hang on to that thought. Don't let it slip away. Uh-oh, it's kind of slippery. Better grab it. It's hard to grab. Turn it around. Uh-oh, you're looking really confused. How do you manipulate thought? It's kind of hard, because the thing we're trying to work with is also thought. But try this exercise. Fold your arms. It's very good. And now by force of habit, one of it was a little more comfortable to put one arm on top. Turn that around. I know, it's kind of hard. But did you notice you can do it? Now, if you folded your arms the wrong way every day this week, would it get easier? Yes. Here's the principle. When you make something physical, you make it trainable. You make it trainable. You make it practicable. And the nervous system is sculpted through practice. So when we can put behaviors, mind, body together, we get a way to practice anything we might need to bring out in our life. That's, to me, the real strength of this. It helps us make shifts in how we approach things so that we don't get stuck. We don't get lost in fear. If the usual way we do it doesn't work, we do something else. We have 3 other team members. we can feel if our usual player isn't up to the task. And that's what we mean in the Zen leader when we go from just playing to your strengths to being able to strengthen how you play the whole game. And for this, I really invite you into an experience of each one. If I have your permission, we'll go through some simple movements that will help you enter each state. And then I'd like to call out from you what this one's good for and how it leads and how it does things and what happens if it gets overdone. So are you willing to try this? Do experiences? Yes? All right. So very important that you don't hurt anybody, including yourself. So you want to get a little room around you. We're not going to be super dramatic, but you want to be at a place where you can see me. So you might want to move a little more to the sides than usual. And let's start with the driver. And I have some music I'm going to share with this that will help us get into the feel of each of these patterns. We're focused on one thing exactly in front of you. So it's very good about hitting one target, getting to one point, doing one thing. What is this pattern needed for in leadership? What's it good for?
Focus.
Focus, absolutely. So this is a pattern. This is a pattern that gets you very focused on the bottom line, this goal, where we are this quarter. What's our top priority? That kind of focus, right? One thing, one target. What else is it good for? Execution. So it has a sense of urgency. It's going to push on time and push on people. Get this done. Holds people accountable. What else? What do you think? Now. It's a very now-oriented, it's a fast-oriented pattern. It's about get it done now. No mess around. What's the risk of this pattern? We're using it at the wrong time.
Alienating.
Division, alienating. Is this pattern a good listener?
No.
No. Notice how quickly you can sense that, right? Why is this pattern a lousy listener?
It needs to get a result.
It's need to get results. And it already has its one point of view. I don't need yours. I got mine. Right? So it's so clear about its one point of view. So what's the risk of this pattern used at the wrong time?
Broken trust.
It's what?
Broken trust.
It's broken trust. It can be running over people. It can be hitting a goal, but who cares? Wrong goal. Life has changed, right? It can get blindsided. It can be fiercely competitive and burn out people, including itself, along the way. This pattern centers on pushing. So, and it's rooted deep in the hara. And so I don't know if I grew up in the Midwest where we sometimes had to push our cars out of the snow. And if you had to push a car, can you feel, if you had to push something heavy, how you push right from the base? That's what organizes that kind of power in the body, right at the pelvic floor, or the root chakra in yogic sense. So the pushing energy is essential for certain things, like what? When is this essential, this pattern? When do you need this? Emergencies. This is the emergency management system. And what else? Scarcity. So if I really have to focus on a priority, but there's not enough for everything, boom, it's going to cut through and make a decision. Every one of these patterns has this quality where it's essential for some things and it's not sufficient. And that's why it's good to know all four. So are you ready for the second one?
Yes.
You got a feeling for this first one. You have your favorite gesture that you can get into driver in a moment's notice, right? All right, so let's go to the next one. You did that very well. I'd like you to make the left and right part of your body the same. Front and back the same. I'd like you to mark the sides in front of a box that is your space. You wouldn't want someone standing inside of this. Just in front of you. This is your space. 3 parts of a project plan. You know people who talk like this. Beginning, middle, end. Oh, that's very good. Touch your shoulders. Without moving the lower body, tip the upper body. Feel the solar plexus as the pivot point. This organizes the organizer pattern in the body. Place your hands there. The third row is having some trouble. Feel into the emotion of this, the thought process, how this does things as a leader. Oh, it's steady as she goes. You better believe it. Oh, it's very good. So this pattern is very steady. What else? What else is it? Structure. You know, it has a recipe. It has a set of rules. It has a set of steps. It's going to go through and check them off. Absolutely. It's very conscientious, and it centers on doing the right thing. So did any of you wonder, like, is this the right step? You know, am I doing this correctly? Because that's what this pattern thinks about. Like, did I get it right? Coloring in the lines or whatever. You know, it is very steady, reliable, and it wants to be conscientious. Do the right thing. So, what's the emotion of this pattern? It's more calm. It was quieter than that first pattern, wasn't it? You could tell. And I draw your attention to the fact that all we did is change movement and emotion change. So where's the body, where's the mind in that? Thought processes change. Which is body, which is mind? What is this pattern essential for in your life? What do you need this one for? Government paperwork, absolutely. Now talk about process, yeah. You know, because any kind of form means somebody's laid out a process for you to follow, you know, to put in a certain kind of information, very organizer task. Excellent. What else do you need this for? Training. So this, how does this help us in training? It's structured. It is disciplined.
Repetition.
Yeah.
Unifying.
That's right. So it's going to be able to set out processes for training, a rhythm of training. It's going to be able to have the discipline to keep coming back to it again and again. What else? Where do you need this one? How does it help leadership?
Risk mitigation.
Risk mitigation. So this one always going to look at figuring out how to put in quality, take out risk, make things safe and steady so we can be reliable. It's very systematic that way. Excellent. Let me just pause this here.
What was that last one called?
This song is the Bach organizer, the pattern. Uh-oh, thank you. So we should be moving this into, this is stepping into the organizer. Yeah, excellent. So organizer in a symbol for, it's more of an earth feeling, you know, it's very grounded. So what happens if you are in this too much, or you overdo this pattern? What do you think is the risk of too much organizer used at the wrong time? Isolation. How is this isolating? It's an interesting comment.
Smug.
It's smug. It can be self-righteous, huh? I got the rules right, why don't you? You know, it can have a judgmental quality to it. By the way, its harshest judgment tends to be for itself. It's self-berating, but it will also can get righteous because being right is like really important to it. What else? Micromanagement. You get lost in the details. Too many details and seeing all the trees and missing the forest. What else?
Limiting creativity.
Limiting creativity. You notice we kept doing the same thing over and over again. What if the world changes? Is this going to be the right process? This is a pattern that can get locked into the beauty and comfort of its own process and have some fear about change. What's its fear based in? What is this pattern afraid of? Losing control. I might not get it right. I knew how to be right in the old way. I don't know what the new way is. So when you can settle the fears by showing a new way and showing the steps, it helps people move on to a new shift. So let's just review the bidding so far. You've got your driver. You can do your gesture, whatever your gesture is, okay? You've got your organizer. Now with each pattern, we're taking off more of the tension in the nervous system. We go into the next one, we get a pattern of oscillation. Let's see what this one feels like. All right. So, back and forth. Figure eight. That's good. Good for? Creativity. So there's a kind of improvisational creativity that's very good at how to bring out creative work with others. It's we call this one the collaborator. It's very good about getting in rhythm with other people. And very good about connecting. When you moved around the room, were there any head-on collisions? No, what happened when you came around another person? Flow was very easy to get into rhythm because rhythm connects people. That's why we rock babies, you know, and then we sit in rocking chairs. Or when you hold out your hand, we naturally know what to do. The rhythm connects people. This is unnatural, you know, to shake like this, right? So, what is this one essential for in your life and in leadership? What do you think?
Connection.
What kind of action?
Connection.
Connection, absolutely. Connection with people, bonding teams, engaging people, bringing up levels of engagement, inspiring the kind of fun, joy of working with you. Right, what else?
Being approachable.
Being approachable, there's a warmth. This is warm energy. It's extroverted like the driver, but it doesn't push on people. It kind of pulls them to the fun of working with you. It's enthusiastic. What else?
Pivoting when you reach like an iceberg.
Exactly, pivoting when you reach the iceberg, so you're not going to crash through it. So it's got a very roundabout way of figuring out how to get around obstacles. Could this be useful when the straight-in approach doesn't work? Very much so. This is a great one to rescue us when driver or organizer can't get the job done. But what's the risk of this one if we use it at the wrong time? Less direction. You know, where's the direction in this? It's kind of like the infinity loop, right? You know, so it doesn't have the point, right? So it might play around a lot, or waste a lot of time in meetings, or tell so many stories that nothing gets done. What else could it be at risk for? Not taken seriously. The class clown, or the person who, you know, is always funny or warm and enjoyable, but you can't count on them to deliver. Because they may not get to the point or organize their time quite like the organizer, the driver. And yet, is it indispensable in your life? What is it? What do you absolutely need it for? Play, resilience, fun, joy. Can't delegate that. We gotta have to make for ourselves. So let's review so far. We've got the driver. Okay, do your gesture, whatever yours is, your favorite one. How would you access your organizer? How would you bring out your organizer? Oh, that's good. That's good. Your collaborator. Can you feel as soon as you shift, things shift? And now what happens when we take off the brake altogether? And there we finally get to Jenkins. So, all right. possible. What else?
Freedom.
Light, free. What else?
Flawless.
Peace, harmony, bigness, flow, exploration. Right, notice we've way left the realm of judgment. We're now into the realm of, we call it the visionary. A visionary who's going to explore and have a bigness, a curiosity about what's going on. What is this one essential for in your life, in your leadership? Strategy. This is going to see the big picture, the unmet customer need, the possibility that actually people did want a phone without buttons. It's going to think of things we don't normally look at. What else do you need it for? Mission. It's very purposeful. It's mission driven, it's purposeful. It's going to say, why? Why are we doing what we're doing? It's very humanitarian oriented. It's going to look at the earth. It's going to care about things like making technology serve humanity. It's a very visionary concern. Where else do you need it? Motivation. So it's very motivating because people are drawn to purpose. They're drawn to the bigness, especially when you can share it, when you can get them resonating with it. What else? Problem solving. This is the pattern where the problem solution comes to you. Not I figured it out. It's like you're taking that shower, right? Your body's relaxed and suddenly, boom, right? Very different feeling than trying to figure it out. What's the problem of using this one at the wrong time?
Lose people.
I could lose people. I'm so visionary and up in the air. Does anything get done? Does it come to earth? Does it come to ground? Can I express it to other people? So this is a pattern that can be very airy. How can I ground it? How can I ground it? Right. What else? When is this pattern, what is this, how does this pattern get in trouble? What else?
Changing direction.
With what?
When there are government forms to be filled.
When there are government forms to be filled around tax time, you know, like this is a pattern that has a hard time with discipline. Don't box me in, right? I like to be free and flowing and, right. So, can you see though how these patterns start to work as a system? So just for a moment, play with me here. Imagine this 180-degree vision. All right. Put your hands out at the side of the head. This bigness, like you're a big satellite dish. All right. And then you get that great, wonderful idea. Woo! Now you want to socialize it. How you can get people moving with you. And get them working together in a process. And here's where we're going to be by the end of the quarter. But wait, keep listening, because conditions could change. Better change that process. Now you got to socialize it with people. Go back to listening. You see how it's you who changes. You become the attenuator of the energy. You. It comes through you. Nowhere else. You know, we think change is out here. We're the moving parts of change. You're the moving part of change. So as we conduct and attenuate this energy, we're bringing it through the body. We're literally bringing it down into the hara. Again, collaborator and driver center low. Organizer here. Visionaries, more energy out of the top of the head. Higher level energy. We're bringing it all the way through to give hands and feet to that kind of energy, to inspiration. To turn inspiration into action. So, let's kind of pull us all together. And I invite you to sit down. Let me just do a time check. What time should I be wrapping up? About a half hour? Okay, good. Whew. I thought it was 8:30. I thought it was like I had to start really rushing. So I'm glad. So let's just put it all together. 4 energy patterns in you work as a system, and we're able to ground that energy in a way where we can experience connection. So the first practice that we were working on was, I say, 3 centered breaths. You can, even sitting there right now, you can center that breath down. Center that breath down. And then when the energy gets more centered, we're able to extend it toward the purposes that call us, the purposes that move you, the purposes that are both the most energizing to you and represent the things you want to create in the world. And we're able to do that with a whole inner team of energies that go from big and diffuse to rhythmic, disciplined, and focused. It can keep going back and forth, I say, from antenna to arrow. We keep attenuating the energy through us. Can you feel that in your own body? Yeah? Can you feel that possibility? Let's play it this way. When you've got focus, discipline, fun and play and rhythm and resilience, and connect to the big picture, what can stop you? What could stop you? Nothing. There's always a way. I mean, it doesn't mean we're going to like everything. It just means there's always a way to work with it. There's always a way. So, let's play with this for just a moment around fear, because that was a special interest of yours, fear. When we can feel into the fears of each of these kind of energies, it's easier to see how another energy can pull us out of it. So feel into, for just a moment, what are drivers afraid of? What are some driver fears? We get afraid of things, again, when we're separate, and the driver is the most separate of the patterns, because it's the one that really fires a lot of control side energy, flexor side tension. It's trying to control things. You even see it when I talk like this. You can see it in my facial expression. Oh, this little jaw gets tight right around here. What's the driver afraid of? Losing control, for one thing. Not being in charge. Losing face. Not winning.
Not being able to continue to do it.
Not being able to continue to do it. That's right. I only know myself that way. And it's such an important thing about the way the ego functions. Because this is where the ego is so tricky. You need an ego or else you'd be psychotic. So I'm not saying the ego is an enemy. The ego is hugely necessary. And it's not who you are. It's kind of like an identity thief. But it has a very important job. What's the ego's job?
Get you out of bed.
Get you out of bed. So it's related to that. It's a little bigger than get out of bed. It's to keep you alive. And getting out of bed is usually a part of that. But it's keeping you alive. It has that survival instinct. So it has a hair trigger for things that it thinks are not good for you. Not all egos are equally good at their jobs, but they all know that you're alive right now. And you are alive under the current set of conditions. Or at least the conditions up until a moment ago. So, the ego doesn't actually exist as a thing, as maybe nothing exists as a thing, but only through all the mooring lines or ties it has to the things it identifies with. So you can picture something that has a gazillion little lines that are holding a shape in place. That is our ego construct. And that ego will identify with everything you put on that list, that things you love to do. Ego identifies with it. That's part of what's keeping you alive. It'll also identify with everything you're afraid of, and all your issues, and everything you don't like, all your opinions, all your titles, your history, all of that. It will draw identity from. So, even you'd think letting go of our fears would be such a straightforward thing. But the ego wants to hang on to them. Because every letting go to the ego feels like a little death. A little bit like less identity. So that's why we say to each other, in the high school yearbook, stay the same sweet person you always were. Right? Why do we want to stay the same? Change could be dangerous.
It's comfortable.
It's comfortable. It's like folding our arms the right way. And yet our comfort zone, we know, becomes a prison after a while. Because after a while, we've so scaffolded our nervous system along a set of habits it can't get out. And new data can't get in. Because the filters we put on that data block out anything novel in the interest of comfort, familiarity. We've traded the novelty for familiarity. So part of where it's really helpful to start seeing through the ego and recognizing it at its game is so we can start using it rather than it using us. That to me is a huge flip or a huge reframe. The ego is not the master storyteller of your life. It's a tool you can use when it's convenient, when it helps you serve your purpose. A tool to use. So drivers are afraid of losing control. What would help settle a driver's fear? Finding a larger locus of control. Not needing to clench. What are organizers afraid of? I'm going to get it wrong. I may not be good enough. I may not be worthy. I may not be worthy. How can organizers let go of that fear?
It's okay to screw up.
What's that?
It's okay to screw up.
It's okay to screw up. And usually it's by moving more into that visionary's bigness, where I let go of judgment and I move into possibility. What do collaborators? You might think with their playfulness, they wouldn't be afraid of anything. What are collaborators fearing? They won't like me. I'm going to be cast out. Commitment, oh yeah, but there's a kind of loyalty that collaborators love, but they're afraid it's going to be lost. So they can get afraid of losing connection, losing relationships, or being cast out. And what happened, we have these old nervous systems. What happened on the savannah 300,000 years ago when you were cast out of the tribe? That's right. And what's the ego's job? Keep us alive. So we can completely get terrorized by the slightest inclination that we're out of the in-group. Or we've been layered in an organization, and now we're not as close to the safety and power as we once were. Or we can get afraid that the group doesn't like us. Look what's happening with kids on social media. Oh my gosh. Not as popular as I should be. Feels like a little death. That's part of our wiring. How about visionaries and all their bigness? You think they wouldn't be afraid of anything, but what's their fear? Nobody follows me, or I can't get my ideas across. I can't
Communicate.
translate, and I've got this beautiful vision and just can't find a place in this messy real world. Nobody understands me. Or I'm being boxed in. I can't be my authentic self. I'm being put in a cubicle and told to follow a process. I can't be me. Those kind of fears. Now, how can a visionary be let out of that? What do you think? Directing and executing. So grounding, that's where the centering is so useful, because what is physically happening when we center ourselves? We're bringing energy from the visionary down into the other three patterns, which are the patterns of execution. The patterns that will turn that vision into something real. Excellent. So once you access each of the patterns, you can release the fears that any one of them had identified with. And as we get in the habit of this, we start to unhook some of those mooring lines. The ego won't go away, and we'll realize that. It wasn't really a death, and we'll realize that. It will give us courage and confidence to keep going. This is what we mean in Zen about dropping attachments. We think attachments are some kind of abstract thing. No, it's all the things that define the ego. And as we cut those lines, we realize, hey, this is kind of fun. I can be free. I didn't need that, and I didn't need that. It's like cleaning out your closet. You realize all the excess that you really didn't need. So, when you're able to center, extend, and be agile in your approach, you're embodying, I want to say, universal energy. You can tune yourself to embody it, and because it's coming through you toward your purpose, which is where we define leadership, we can call it embodying consciousness. But wait, there's more. This is a gateway. For those of you who said, hey, I like that stuff about less stress and better concentration and all those other benefits of meditation, but working with mind and body as one is a gateway. Because it is a basic dualism, a separation that is false, but once we work with it, we start to reintegrate. And we say that it's a gateway to resolving all separation. The separation of self and other. The seeming duality of life and death. That big one that promotes fear in the ego, right? Because once we resolve life and death, the ego doesn't have a lot to be afraid of. But you don't resolve life and death by being cavalier about it. Oh, I'm not afraid to die. Yeah, right. Right, you're not afraid to die. I remember a story my Zen teacher told years ago that really bowled me over. I grew up in an era before seatbelts and those bags. Airbags, yes, airbags. Before seatbelts and airbags. And so car accidents were frequently fatal. And they used to call the seat next to the driver the death seat. They used to call it that in the 60s. I don't know if you remember that. You probably don't. Yeah. And because most people who died in traffic fatalities were in that seat. Why? Well, the conventional wisdom was, well, the steering wheel protects the driver. No. The steering wheel does not protect the driver in a fatal automobile crash. It is no real protection at all. It'll crush you as much as the windshield or the dashboard or anything else. Why was the passenger the one more likely killed? Because the driver made the final decision. Yeah, I'm not afraid to die. Nonsense. It kicks in. It kicks in. We are so deeply selfish about that kind of stuff. It's wired in. So when we can start to resolve life and death questions, then more and more fear can drop away. So my Zen teacher's teacher said, you start to realize that your true human body is not just the skin sac, it's the entire universe. Now these are words in a slide, but I invite you to imagine for a moment, imagine experiencing the truth of those words. The true human body is the entire universe. If you experience those words, what would you have to be afraid of? We talk about the ball on fast-moving waters. You might think, well, yeah, okay, I can be one with the water, one with the water. You are the water. It's not just that the ball is one with the water, you are the water, the shoreline, the rock, the current. How to operate as the whole picture, that's open to us. So how big would you lead? What would you create? Who would you serve? What would you change? That's where deep training takes us. That's where deep training takes us. And if this calls you further, there's opportunities to go deeper into it. There's online programs, live programs, and many of you already have practices that call you. What I would offer is this. Find something. Find some practice that helps you play this game of life all out. Completely true to you and resourced by your entire body-mind system. All 4 patterns, heart-centered, full energy, fully connected, right on purpose. And then let that purpose come manifest through you. Let it come to life through you. We are the moving parts. So realize your purpose, which is to say, make your purpose real. So let me ask you questions that come up for you as you listen to this. Any questions? Yeah.
Thank you for the comment. It's great. I feel like a lot of the challenge of embodying conscious leadership, it comes about awareness, because when you are in the middle of the moment, you kind of like lose the awareness of your own unconscious behavior and your own patterns. So how do you have any technique to use to go back to your self-awareness, if it's in the body, in the mental?
Great question. Great question. So what are techniques to go back to awareness? Because we can know anytime we're doing like a simple breathing exercise, we can all get there. Focus on that breath. But how do we get there in the heat of action? How do we get there when everything's happening so quickly? And here's what it is. The nervous system learns through repetition. There's no two ways about it. That's how it learns. And so we have to repeat something again and again for it to become embodied, or an unconscious competence. So what I found in my own life is that the practice of bringing my awareness back to breath and bringing breath back to heart, that simple practice has become an unconscious competence over the years. So now when I'm in the heat of it, it'll kick in. But it did not kick in before I practiced. So it's like with learning all things, that if it's not there in relaxed times, you can't get there under pressure. But if you build up the capability in relaxed times, it'll kick in when at all times. So we know, for example, that anytime you bring your awareness back to breath, in meditation, Zen meditation, with a very simple practice where we count our breath from 1 to 10. Not really exciting. But every time your mind starts wandering in its own monkey way, and you bring it back to 1, and you just go 1, 2, 3, and so on up to 10. You're strengthening the connection, we now know, between the prefrontal cortex and the midbrain. You're building a superhighway of self-regulation. We also know that every time you're breathing down into the hara, you're activating a breath pump in the lower abdomen that is going to make it impossible to be anxious at the same time. You're getting something happening deep in the body that takes away anxiety. So you get a dual effect of better control of mental processes and better stability in the physical body. If you keep doing that, the body knows. It remembers. There's no question about it. And it'll go there whenever it has to. It goes there anyway. So that's the beauty of embodiment. I'm so grateful for the mindfulness movement that has really circulated in our time, because it's gotten people's awareness about awareness. But for many people, they think it's awareness of my thought. And we live in our heads so much anyway that I'll just notice what I'm thinking when I'm doing an awareness exercise, and the rest of the time I'll pretend that I notice what I'm thinking, or whatever. But when that penetrates through the entire body, then it's a habit. And the habit is there whether I think about it or not. Then it's embodied. And I'll tell you the beauty of embodiment, it starts functioning. So we have a very strict criteria in Zen training where, a lot of people think full awakening means I've had an aha experience. We say, that's the beginning. Aha experience, that's the beginning. Put that in your body so deeply that aha is how you live, is how it functions. It doesn't mean you're always going around aha. It just means that universal sense of connectedness has become such a deep, ingrained habit that it comes out through how you behave. That is what we mean by full awakening. Yeah, question. Since he was my volunteer, I kept on. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that there was some research done.
You mentioned earlier that there was some research done on when the brain and the body connect, the human electromagnetic field increases 40 times. Could you talk a little more about that and how that was done?
Yeah, the Heart Math Institute is, and Joe Dispenza is doing a lot of work with this. I don't know, Becoming Supernatural, some of you might know of this, is the book where I was reading about this. They have all kinds of graphs in there. And there were some that really impressed me, because if we put a little EEG cap on you right now, little EEG cap, we could measure how the different parts of your brain were coherent or not. And some would be going like this, and some would be kind of different. And in most normal brains, the signal doesn't really add up. You know, it's kind of chaotic. But then in a highly focused meditation state, you get into a much more stable region. And maybe some of you are studying this even in this room. And you can start to get coherence. And they can measure the effect using gas discharge velocimeters around what's going on around the body, the electromagnetic field around the body. And that gets much bigger when the 50,000 neurons in the heart and the EKG is coherent with the brain. Now, what they haven't measured yet, and I really want them to, is when you get the hara, the heart, and the head together. When you get this is the superwoofer. This is the subwoofer. You know, this is the one that when you could get this, I think it's gonna go sky high, but I'm dying for someone to do that research. But what the heart math people have done, and they're very much about heart-brain coherence, is they've looked at this connection and its effect on the electromagnetic field. Yeah. It's very interesting. We didn't know that. You know, I went into biophysics to learn this, years ago, but we didn't know this years ago. Now the technology is much better at being able to measure the energetic fields of people. Question? Yeah.
Oh, just on that, the first chapter of The Future of the Mind talks about it too.
Yeah, the first chapter, Future of the Mind.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Exactly the same thing.
Future of the Mind, good. Yeah.
What?
Oh, go ahead.
What's your morning routine?
My morning routine.
Instead of writing.
Yes. My morning routine is I start with stretching, and then I sit, and if I'm on the road, I'll run. So I do stretching, sit, run. So that's my morning routine. But if I'm home, I'll run later. But I always do the stretching and sitting. And why do I do sitting every day? Because it sets my day, and it gives me time to just feel into what this day needs to be.
When you say sit, is it meditation or what is it?
I'm talking about Zazen in particular, in my case. It's sitting meditation. So I'm sitting in a way where I'm using, with every breath, that deep outer breathing. I'm seeing how slow and deep I can make my exhale with every breath. Counting at 1 to 10, and then just letting that settle into the whole condition. And of course, yoga and stretching is a way to precondition the body for Zazen. It was developed as the prelude to meditation. So that kind of stretching helps condition the body so the breath will drop. Yeah?
Rinzai or Soto?
My tradition is a Rinzai line. So it was closely aligned with martial arts, which is how I got into it. But it's also in part because of that and why it's so physically oriented, why it's so much about embodying and functioning. Yeah.
So for your spiritual practice, do you follow any specific spiritual master or saint? I don't know.
I've had wonderful teachers in my life, wonderful teachers. And in the Zen tradition, a Zen master, through what's called mind stamper Inca, anoints the next generation of Zen teachers. And that tradition has been passed down for 1,500 years. So that has been my tradition. And it has been passed to me. So.
Right here.
This has been really useful for me because I've only identified 2 of these energy patterns, and it's great to see it sort of broken down a little more. And I've had a social Zen practice for 20 years, but every few years I have some catharsis, either I go on a long session or psychedelic trip, or something that sort of temporarily wakes me up, and I will be able to experience much more of the visionary state and the oscillating state. And I'll try, and that's the state I'm sort of in now, and I'm trying so much to hold on to it.
Yeah.
But eventually I revert back to my left-brained sort of intellectual side that's leading the control and whatever. And I know that will happen eventually again. And sitting just sitting doesn't seem to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm trying all these other things, like trying to go to dance class, which I also hate, and I'm just trying to force myself to try and hold onto those patterns, but I don't know. So are you saying all I need to do is just keep sitting and stay grounded?
It's not one size fits all. Your own experience is guiding you that maybe you need to do something in addition to that. I know that there's this apocryphal story about Gautama Buddha that he realized after sitting a lot that he had to do something in addition to sitting. And it was part of where it led him to go find teachers in the yogic traditions and things to try to do something to get the energy moving in the body, The experience you have is so human. And I think all of us can identify with it. If we have some ahas and breakthrough, some wonderful time, and then revert, And it's so frustrated me in my own Zen training that I had this incredible experience that I was sure was going to be permanent this time, and Tuesday morning, So that's part of our condition. And it's always going to go back and forth in a little, always back and forth. One of the things that I would just invite, as I've invited it with myself, is rather than fight with it, welcome it in as a friend. Rather than fight with the reversion, how do you make friends with it? How do you use it? And then always returning to the things that help you be free, Because I find I work in a very busy world, just like you do. And I'm very intentional about that. That's where my work is. But if you work in a busy world, you're going to get a busy mind. It's going to, that energy is going to affect us. We are energetic beings. Bring it on. Bring it on. But I'll also know how to settle it down. So.
Final question.
Last question is? Yes?
Within the 4 energy states, or the leadership states, how do you balance between where you're strong and weak and where your team is strong and weak?
It's a great question. In the 4 energies, how much do I balance between what I work on versus surrounding myself with people who complement me? Because both are completely good strategies. One thing I'm intentional about, you could be too, is there's certain parts of each energy you can't delegate, and you can't, no one else can have your fun for you, right? No one else can release your tension. No one else can have clear mind, no one else can be conscientious for you. On the other hand, you can complement with the team around you, and it often is a great team building tool and skill to think about that, and how do each of us want to play. And you don't want to stereotype people though either. So, but you always have kind of a make or buy decision. How much I cultivate this in me versus surround myself. So collaborator was the energy pattern I wanted to develop the most. And in addition to doing things like Aikido and dance and improv comedy, I also married a collaborator. Thank you so much. You've played so full out. I really appreciate it.